Would you mind introducing yourself for the audience, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Kamenskikh, and I'm currently a painter and artist based on Georgia, United States. And I do a variety of work, mostly plein airs and studio work. And I wouldn't say I'm self-taught. It's a really kind of deceiving term nowadays. But I did graduated art school in the childhood, but I wouldn't call it as like a real formal training. And I do have a master degree in engineering science, in civil engineering. And that was my basic training. And then I perform all my, I would say, self-directed training, because I was taking classes, I was taking lessons, and there were teachers. So surely I didn't taught myself. I was taught by other people, and they are a great deal of inspiration and growth, in my opinion, mentors, teachers. So that's shortly about me. And currently I'm doing my online business of selling art, teaching online and in person. And I also participate in a gallery in a show. So also I do plein air painting for fun. Like people say that I meet my fellow artists. We go together and paint from life for fun.
Excellent.
Your work is beautiful, Julia. And I first come across it because you run a course with Penn School of Arts, and we sort of run it at the same time. And I saw your work, and it's so beautiful how you, and I especially love your landscapes and seascapes and sky as well. And it's interesting because you work mainly in acrylic, is that right?
I wouldn't say like I mainly work from something. I started my artistic journey from watercolor, because like all my childhood I was familiar with watercolor, like honey watercolor. So it wasn't like acrylic when I was 10. We didn't know about that at all. And gouache, yes, it was gouache, but it kind of didn't appeal to me. So acrylic is, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's my main medium. I like it for convenience. It took me some time to get used to working with that. But my true love is watercolor and gouache. And you also work with gouache, and it is different from acrylic. It's really, yeah, it's different kind of paint. Some people say like acrylic is plastic. In this term, we would say, yeah, gouache is not plastic, but I wouldn't like downsize acrylic as much to be just plastic, because it is whatever you make with that. So it certainly has advantages, but it didn't like took my whole heart. So I will be painting with acrylic 100%. No, I like gouache probably, but it's for when you sell artwork. You know that you kind of have to deal with framing under the glass, and when you frame it, it's kind of losing its beauty of matte surface. So that's why acrylic is more convenient in this term.
Absolutely, but it handles very differently. And what I like about your paintings when I look at them, and I just went through your Instagram again, and it's difficult to tell that they are acrylic. And I think this is the interesting thing, that someone who's able to work across those different types of media. But your paintings sometimes look like oil paintings as well. How did it sort of handling the acrylic in a sense? Because with gouache, you always have that possibility of bringing it back to life with a little bit of water. How do you find the drying aspect of acrylic, seeing that once it dries, it's set?
That's that quality of acrylic, it could be a downside, but it's also to me is upside because okay, so let's say you painted something and then you gonna add like and see does it work or not, but you're not sure. With acrylic you have wonderful possibility to have a damp towel and paint over something, and if you don't like, you can immediately wipe it down immediately without destroying anything. You cannot make that trick with gouache. Once you lay down paint, you can overpaint, but you cannot erase it immediately.
Yes.
Yeah, it does dry quick on a palette. It depends on environment. It really does dry quick in a plein air painting. That's why I did plein air with acrylic just to test out thing, but it's really, really hard. It's like everything dries fast and you just fast to squeeze new paint because everything dried. Your palette dried, your paint you squeezed, and some people do open acrylics. But then like I was thinking about that, like, okay, if I want like to paint to dry not that fast, I better to, paint with oils. And they're fantastic for that. So I like acrylic. You can use different technique of like blending. Some people say, oh, they don't blend well. They don't, I mean, then they wet, but they are good when you dry brush them. So you paint it and then like with dry brushing, you can really smooth it out, but it's not like you do it in oil. Or you can do it in oil, but you have to wait between drying. So I like it. I think I didn't like them at first. At my first 5 times, I just really hated them. Just like what a pain, what I can do with that. But then I got myself like a month to paint exclusively with acrylics, just to get used to them, just to find out how to work with them. And I think it's a crucial time for people to give them a chance and work it out, not to say, oh, they work, with oil. And then door is closed. So, but I'm trying to, have more doors open as I like get a call from the gallery and they say, okay, your painting is sold, bring new one tomorrow.
Yes.
With oil, you just can't do that because you need at least 1 week, and then with oil, yeah, you can bring them. Like depending on size, you can bring them next day or day after. Yeah, it'll be fine. So
absolutely. You were saying about the dry brush technique for blend. It's interesting. I use gouache very much in a dry brush way. I hardly dilute it with water at all. And I was always sort of taught to use gouache with water, to get it. But I find it's really good for blending and scumbling with a dry brush. With your technique, do you mainly use dry brush? How much water do you use with the acrylic?
I usually start with it's like in my all mediums in gouache as well. I start with watery wash.
Yes.
So I have a kind of underlying colors and main colors already in place, so I can then judge better what the painting is gonna be. But they usually thin out, very thin out, so I do it quickly, and I'm not like committed with a thick layer of the paint to something yet. So the same with acrylic, and whenever I was doing them, they usually don't lay nicely in the first layer either way. It's like just, they will be like stripy, whatever. So I do that, see, and then I begin working with more paint-like consistency, just pure paint, and then softening my brushes. So it's important too. If you have a hard brush, you will be like doing like strong marks. And sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. And then I take softer brush, and then I just, kind of layer, lightly touch. So it does change a little bit color, but I don't overpaint it with next layer. So it leaves bits of colors, but it doesn't overpaint the initial, color laid. So the same with gouache, I guess. With gouache, you also can, if you start like watery, then you build up more paint. You don't want like to put watery wash on the, paint. It's gonna be just destroyed.
Yes. Yeah.
Before.
Sometimes I do that with my gouache, and this it's one of the interesting techniques for me, or properties of gouache is, especially where the horizon line is. You know,
Mhm.
I suppose try to get a blurry horizon.
Yeah.
So
I noticed that. Yeah, I
yes,
noticed that in your work, it's really like how we see that. It's not like how camera shows us, like a broad
absolutely.
line. Yeah.
And because it's the furthest point away from us, so I
Yeah.
try to always give it that sense of it blurring. So when I'm using a gouache, I'll tend to build it up quite thick, and then take a damp brush, and just on that area, take the wet brush, and it blurs it. And I love that about gouache. You can build something up and it dries very quickly, but you can still go in if you want to carefully and destroy
Yes,
little
exactly.
for effect.
Yeah, you can do that trick with acrylic as well. You just have two brushes, and one is with paint you have on, and another one is damp and clean. And you do the brush stroke, and second brush you just goes on top, so it will soften it. So you just do that quickly, and you just have everything ready. And it doesn't work, you just wipe it down. And so I think acrylic has really nice possibilities.
You're convincing me to try it.
Yeah.
I will try it. Yeah, it is one of those mediums that I think, for me, oil and gouache are the ones that I'm very interested in. Also oil pastel as well. But I think with acrylic, I tried it for some time, and I got frustrated and didn't give myself that time to learn. But as you say, give yourself time to learn, and
Yeah. Like, in our society, we kind of overemphasize information. So, if I know how, I will do that. Like somebody tells me a secret, and I will do that. But you kind of have to practically test it out, and any paint will take time to, especially if you come from different media and you have a different mindset how things work. It will will take time to adjust, but it's worth trying. Like I just can't see myself working with just one medium because it's kind of limiting you, and it's also like you doing art. It's not like you doing medium, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Simon, do you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was wondering about because you've used oil, acrylic, and lots of different mediums. There's obviously the reputation that with oil you go from dark to light, and with acrylic you go from light to dark. Do you deviate from that, or do you follow that?
Actually, I start with my darks with acrylic as well, because it's like any paint is in white. Titanium white is not like 100% opaque, and if you're painting something like dark and then you try to cover with acrylic with white, you will be having hard time. I mean, anyway, you will build layers then. And I also like to start with darks to have them deepen up as I want. I can also always can lighten them up a little bit, but making them darker, so no. And I also want to see like structure of darks first, to see like what my darks are and how they frame value structure of my painting. I don't deviate from that.
Is it quite
as much.
methodical? It's kind of a compositional approach, really, is kind of the darks kind of set the composition early.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I tend to start with midtones. So I start with the mid, and then I can go darker or lighter with it. It's interesting the different approaches, and I'm not sure, why I started doing that, but I like it because with the mid-tone, especially with clouds, for example, start with the middle tone of the cloud and then push it darker underneath and lighter on top. What's your method, Julia, for painting clouds? You make very beautiful clouds.
To me is, like we have limitations on a paint. It's like how light and colorful you can go. So there's like max point when you can go above. Like it will be my lightest and brightest color. I mean, the most saturated color. And then I start usually from that. And then I build upon. I can go darker, I can go lighter, but it will be less chroma. Mm-hmm. So I'm usually like mixing it, and that's my set point. Because like if I would start like from, I don't know, maybe I can go like too light, and then I will have no capacity to go even lighter, or it will be like just washed out. So to me is like that. I know I want to establish my capabilities, and then I can push darker and have more color, or push lighter but lose the color. Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, it could be like something like medium, like mid-tone, not like lightest light.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Now we're talking about colors, and we always ask the artists, what is your color palette? Do you have a set color palette? Do you change your colors? What do you use?
I usually have a kind of like, for my studio work, I have a kind of limited palette. I would say some people say it's primary split palette. So 2 versions of red, yellow, and blue, and white. And I quite rarely deviate. Sometimes I do have greens on my palette when I'm painting plein air, and I just have want to have a ready to use green without mixing it. And but it's mostly primaries, and I do stick with them quite like consistently. Mm. And I don't like when you start painting, you usually buy this color and this color and this color, and you end up with a bunch of different like fancy colors, but you don't know like what to do with them, and your work on them looks like illustration with all patchwork of different colors. But then you limit yourself with less colors, but you use them all for all your mixtures, and you have a kind of common colors for every and then your painting feels like you there, because we like when we're painting landscapes, all colors are they just all common, because the sun shining on everything and gives like common kind of color to everything, and we have to capture that to make it believable, so make it convincing. So to me, landscapes, yes, that's limited palette, and I don't usually use greens as much as for like plein air for convenience, but for my studio work, I'm usually mixing it from what I have. I also started using black one. That's one new guy, because I was taught before like, no, don't touch black, it's bad color, or just. And I think it's kind of was limiting advice to me, because I found out in acrylic you probably won't be able to mix from primaries, I mean yellow, blue, and red, as dark as just black itself. And sometimes you need it. Yes, I'm not saying like everything should be using, every mixture should be using black, not really, but you kind of, if you want to have a like full range of contrast in the work, yeah, black will be handy.
And it makes very interesting greens when mixed with, say, cadmium yellow, black, ivory black, or lamp black, or whatever. You mix that with any of the cadmium yellows, and the green is incredible.
Yes, exactly. I like mixture. My favorite is it gives like you almost black but deep green is Mars black, I think I use, or ivory black, and Indian yellow. And Indian yellow is transparent and gives you just nice, rich. It's not like dull or lifeless like black itself, but it's more like greenish, but still very, very dark.
Yes, yeah. Especially with the Indian yellow. We talked about Indian yellow the other day, and it's an incredible colour because as on its own out of the tube, it's a very kind of a dark, great glazing colour, but you need only a little bit of white in it, and it comes alive. But yeah, it's a fascinating colour, Indian yellow.
Yeah, and very powerful. I mean, like you can kind of I don't know, like mess up the whole painting if you like don't be careful with that.
Yeah. It's very, very strong.
It's very strong.
Julia, so you've now, have you always painted still life? Because I see you've got a different Instagram for your still life painting now. Is it something new, or have you always done it?
Yeah, I always done that, but it's I don't know, I think it's a new thing on Instagram, and it kind of keeps you in your narrow range of paintings you've done, and usually don't encourage people to paint different genres. And like okay, if you're landscape painter, people love your landscapes and more people love your landscapes, and then but I don't believe like you should be mostly one genre painting. And there's so many beautiful things, including still life, and I love portrait. I don't post it at all. I'm keeping it secretly because I'm still learning, but I like it to be different work, and it's not always the landscapes are inspiring to me. If it's wintry and cold outside and everything is gloomy and gray, I'm better to set up flowers and have some fun with colors. So I decided to like maybe separated it, but then I don't know actually. It's kind of more artificial of separate yourself from all things you love. The same to be like oil painting, one account, acrylic paintings, another account. It's kind of like, I don't know, not sure about.
Yeah. I understand that because I paint still life, not as regular as landscapes, but whenever I post the still life, it gets less engagement, of course, on Instagram. And it's a sort of a very contemporary problem for artists in a sense, because people with the algorithm and with Instagram, they want to see something that they're used to seeing by you. So landscape, that kind of thing. And then if you occasionally put a still life in there, it's like maybe they don't even recognize it. And I noticed that as well. And I did at some point think I might have, a separate account a couple of years ago for doing it. And in the end, I thought, you know what? No, this is me, and these are my little sort of experiments and stuff. Now, there's a lot I won't post on there because I don't think it's good enough or whatever. But I like to see that diversity in an artist's approach, and it's very much how you would see how artists used to be. When you look, say, at Van Gogh or people like that, they're always changing what they're painting in many ways and showing those different skills and those different subjects. Do you think it is very much like I was saying nowadays that as artists we almost become brands and we want to deliver
Yeah, I think it's like yeah, common trend like to deviate to like small niche and be recognizable for like particular subject, and this is nice, but I don't think it's like how you would grow. Like if your goal is to grow as an artist, you always want to challenge yourself, and changing the subject is a great way to challenge yourself, because I'm here not like to paint landscapes or anything, or flower or anything. I'm here to paint light and form, and how I see form in the light. It could be anything. The hardest form is human body and head, because we so used to see it, and every single little mistake will be just, oh, that's, something's off. But it's and also I don't believe like when people say, oh, I can draw, I don't know, the bird, and I'm bird painter, but I can't draw, I don't know, flowers, so I can draw landscapes or anything. But to me, is either you learn how to draw and you have skills, or you not, because every like change in the subject is your test out of understanding how form works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Simon, do you want to ask a question on that? Because I know you're very interested in sort of form and figurative.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was wondering because I mean, I do play with portraiture sometimes, and it can be tricky, but I always try to go as minimal as possible, because then the viewer will make up all of the details you haven't included. Whereas I was curious, to be honest, if you'd be able to share something which doesn't work that you've experienced. I mean, I'll give you an example. I did a lot of plein air painting last year, and one time I changed my palette, and what I couldn't do is mix colors accurately. And instead, what a friend of mine came up and saw that I was struggling, and she said, go for tonal accuracy and not color mixing accuracy. Because my reduced palette, I can get quite accurate mixing. Whereas because I'd changed the palette for this one trip, I just couldn't mix those colors as accurate as normal. So that didn't really work for me, and I wasn't prepared for it. Is there anything which you've experienced where you think that doesn't work in my experience, and I've had to understand it a different way, or have you kind of taught yourself through difficulties in any kind of mixing or approach in any way like that?
I always struggle with something, especially if you go out paint plein air. And I usually go, we have a guy who's like our head, and he knows where we're going, but I don't know where we're going, so I don't know what I'm gonna be painting. So I always try to, push myself out of comfort zone. Because it's not always about, like be confident and know what you're doing 100%, because it's missing like kind of joy of unknown, when you 100% know like your painting will come up right, and you always know, and it's a 100% case, guess what, you're gonna be boring. It's gonna be just like, and then I go like plein air. I always have that sense, like I would say like less confident in having good result, and it's kind of unavoidable. Like whatever I will say, you okay, so have these colors and mix this way or do this. It could be working, but it's also like maybe not working, but it's fun. It's exploration. To me, plein air painting is not about like getting perfect results. I can, strive for perfection in studio when light is consistent, when time is not constrained, light is not changing, subject is not changing, like all these different factors when they're. So I just go for that, and I'm trying to have fun, in the moment. And the most important thing of the painting plein air is observation. No matter how good camera is, you will never get those colors correctly. you know, like from photograph, and I'm just trying my best. And for plein air painting, to me, is like lower your bar. I mean, if you like trying to get colors that make you go low, like don't worry about much about finished painting or composition or anything. Do color notes. And sometimes when colors are really intense and fast changing, like sunset, it's only way to work. You probably won't be able like to pace fast enough to come up with large painting for gallery. Probably no, but it's, and it's also like when you're painting plein air, some people don't think about like how to choose the subject first, and they take something too difficult. And it's also they don't know how to position themselves in relation to the sun. I didn't know that at first, and I figured out on my practice. So you better not to face to the sun or like on the opposite. So you better to look like on the sun on your side. So you see kind of light and shadow on the form, and will help you when you beginner, help you to see things better and more three-dimensional. But then you can, you know, change your approach when you getting a little bit more experience with that. So I didn't know that, and I struggled a lot with sometimes painting and staying in the sun
That's a great
and trying to come. Yeah, you even can, I think, damage your eyes, but I was just like, oh, I'm go for that, you know, glare. And so yeah.
Mm. Do you use a ground color? Do you kind of have any approach where you think, I'll put down a yellow ground or an orange ground before I start painting so that I have this vibrancy showing through? Or do you paint onto a white surface? Because that can really change, can't it? You know, as soon as you've got all the colors down and the white disappears, the tonal value of everything and the
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, I've tried like different approach, and I also tried that, you know, burnt sienna wash on first, and I did it like several times, but I kind of saw it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me at all. It's just more kind of like a shield that doesn't like help me to see the color. And then you like lay the color on the burnt sienna surface, it does look really different from what you're mixing on, because you're probably not mixing on a burnt sienna palette.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, to me is more convenient to have like what you mixing on and your surface to be the same. So you kind of like see when you're mixing color, you kind of see what you're mixing and you're putting it on. It looks like what you mixed. Like some people do like a red background, and I think I've done pink background, but it was wild. So yeah, kind of like personal preferences. Some people want to get rid of the white first, but I do like first kind of fast wash of things, but the colors more close to what I need them to be. They're not just like wild random color, because otherwise I will need to put right color on the right spot. And having burnt sienna may be handful somewhere, but maybe not in other places.
That's really interesting, because I pretty much always use, it's not always burnt sienna sometimes, and I'm talking about oil paint here. I will sometimes just use the stuff that I wash all, so white spirit, and it's just a grey and red. It's basically all of the primary colours, or every colour in the sludge, and I'll tone the surface with that. And a lot of it is to get rid of the white for me. And I think because then I'm going on top of that straight in with paint directly from the tube. So I'm not doing a wash to sketch things out. So that burnt sienna surface is really helpful then, because there are going to be certain little gaps in the impasto or the paint on top, and I don't want the white to be coming through. But I think if I were to be using a wash first to put on my tones and my colours, I wouldn't need it. So that's really, really interesting what you're saying there, because you're creating that under kind of painting or those tones yourself by those first few washes. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of like that. So the burnt sienna, I don't even mind that color. I like it, but it's, you know, if it's like dry grass beneath, yeah, it will be helping you. It will be helping, but maybe not necessary to help in the sky, as I find out when I really need like clean, singing, pink kind of. So, and I just like, I would do maybe like, you know, wash burnt sienna for ground plane. Yeah, maybe fine. It's helping to do that maybe if you're painting cityscape, because yeah, when you have like a little many details, when you join them together, you have white marks and you annoy to paint them. Yeah, I don't like that too. And like for city, yeah, I would do maybe wash, so not to have those little white.
Yes.
But when they like just, yeah, annoying and like keep you away from thinking about bigger stuff. And
absolutely, it's actually really good for if you're doing blue skies, because the burnt sienna and say then ultramarine blue, because they're complementary in that sense.
yeah.
So having, when you put the ultramarine blue with some white in it, of course, on top of the burnt sienna wash on the background, it just sort of pops. And sometimes for those clouds and very sort of English clouds, if then you're painting and just that warmth of the burnt sienna coming through the clouds, it kind of helps them.
Yeah, maybe next one I will try to do that again, you know? Maybe I'll like it.
Julia, talk about teaching, because you teach painting as well. Is it mainly through workshops online? Do you do it often, or how important is it to you?
I don't do that often. I mean, often enough. I don't know. Maybe because I think I prefer teaching not online. I like offline. And to my experience, online is not for everyone. And the student should be dedicated and willing to work. And it's really hard. And to me, it was kind of challenging when I taught like in-person class. You kind of see, oh, they're not getting it, you know, there's like question in the eyes, and you just go further. But online, you kind of don't see, everyone is silent and you're just talking to yourself, and maybe they, you know, lost the line, and or even seeing like when you're doing the camera adjust balance of white, and like you start, you know, from mid-tone clouds and they look so dark on the camera, and then just like, oh, and people like, are you sure? And like, what? But then you kind of like adjust that, and it doesn't happen in person because yeah, people see that better. So I like that. Like I'm not only teaching online, I'm also learning online, and I like the possibility you can learn from everyone. That person could be in England, in the United States, and far away on other coasts. I cannot travel that far now. I have 2 kids, and like my primary duties are taking care of them. Maybe like that I like in-person classes much better, and I signed up for one for myself. In May, I'm gonna have a birthday. It's gonna be my birthday gift to myself. So, because I like that interactive moment of in-person class.
Yeah, they're totally different. I was talking to Simon about this earlier, because I'm running online classes at the moment and do in-person classes as well, and it is very, very different. In the in-person class, I walk around, you know, sit with people and to, you know, maybe do this or adjust this. online it's very, very different, you know, but people will post their work, and you know, it's not, it's a totally different process. But I like both. I enjoy both.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you need motivation and really do the practice, because people like, and I'm not an exception. I also, if I'll watch, I'll get an idea and I know how to do that. But no, it's not gonna work. You just like will not learn much from that just watching. Just like you, when you riding with someone and someone is driving, like you can ride with them forever, but you will not become a driver if you're not driving yourself. So
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I will have like a online class, but it just because I want to share my knowledge, and people always ask me how to get in the class, and I'm just doing that like as a, like they want to see my technique, but I'm not like saying, okay, I will, you know, teach you how to paint a masterpiece in 2 hours.
Yes, yeah. So no promises. You can't make promises on that.
Yeah, and I really want to see them. I even offered like a personal feedback, just because it will be stimulating for them to do the painting and show me, and I will give the feedback. So I think it's important.
Good. So about your painting practice, you said sort of it's a mix of plein air, studio work. Which do you prefer? Is it, do you have a sort of a favourite thing, to be outside painting or to be in the studio?
I think I like studio. You know, when you're comfortable, when you have everything available. So I live in Georgia. We have a coastal climate, and like whole summer we are too hot. I painted plein air when it was hot, but it's just challenging to be there. And I wish it could be always like 70-degree and it was like mild and not raining, not like, no, we have bugs also, they will be biting you. They will eat you alive if you're not careful. So I like the adventure. I like being outdoor, but when you're creating something, you better be focused on your task mainly, not on distractions. Even though I can like say, oh, I hate plein air painting, I will never do that again. No, I love it, but it's challenging. It's challenging to be focused on your artwork 100%. And then people come over, they look over your shoulder, and then will ask you questions, and you just, it is fun too. I like, educating people so that people are painting. They painting from life. They painting plein air. They having fun. So, and they just, oh, you're painting. Is it real paint? Are you painting with real paint? So there was a question somebody asked me like recently, like, I don't know, is it like not real paint?
We haven't asked you that question. Whether you paint with real paint, I don't know what that means.
Yes. Are you painting with real paint?
Are you a real artist?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's nobody asked me, but people usually really kind and polite, and they don't mean bad. Like nobody told me anything bad, like when I was out painting plein air.
With the teaching side of things, I was wondering, because I've been taught by different people in different ways, not official teaching of paints, but there's one medium, which is watercolor, which I feel I understand the theory, because there's a clear theory, in my view, behind watercolor, which other paints I haven't found has the same theory. So with acrylic, I don't feel as though I know the exact, it's always a battle with acrylic. And I always engage with that battle to try and make it work. With watercolor, I feel as though once it was explained to me well, and I understood the principle of how the light reflects through the paper, and the white is then, the page, and everything that you do on top is diluted so that it's thin layers on top of each other. You're building the opacity slowly on top, with these transparent layers. That made sense to me. And that was something which really, as soon as it clicked, I understood it, and I feel as though I could pass it on. Is that something which, is that something which you feel the other mediums, do you think there's, oil and acrylic have a similar theory, or is it a little bit more? There's several ways of doing it, because I know that acrylic, watercolor, you can use a different way. I just feel as though the theory I was taught, that way of preserving the paper for the reflection and the radiance of the white, that to me appears to be the purest way of using watercolor, unless I'm mistaken. But is that something which you?
I think, the problem is maybe, as I see it, acrylic could be so different. Like it could be like watercolor, it could be like oil as well. So like they different, like watercolor and oil on itself, and like way of working. But you can kind of working both ways, and in that sense. So to me, watercolor, I love it, but I was taught, and I know it, like very methodical medium. So you have the way of doing things, and you better to do detailed drawing, prepare for your painting, not just like a smash paint and trying to overpaint. And yeah, and acrylic, it could be that way, but I just think it's more like having wild nature, more room for experimentation, and it maybe shouldn't be as methodical as the even like oil. And you also have kind of rules to go from thin to thick. And I also keep that approach from going from thin to thick with acrylic as well, because like the more paint you have, the harder to deal with that. So if you trying to think, I mean, you're thinking on your canvas and you're kind of not sure how to place things, yeah, you have a bit of acrylic, you have a room to go from thin and see, and then adjust. But if you like smash a paint, by bucket, then you probably will have hard time adjusting that. So it'll be just paint. So
Yeah,
I don't know, like my advice would be like experiment more with acrylic, and what you're missing in acrylic in comparison to watercolor. So you don't have a order of how things should be done, like you lost how to make it.
Yeah, that's been my experience. Yeah, so that was
Yeah, and then it could be like from thin to thick as well.
Yeah, it seems to be with acrylic, in many ways, it's probably the most sort of flexible medium. Like you're saying with oil, I mean, oil, you have to, in the traditional sense, work lean to fat, so thicker layers over thinner layers. There's ways around that if you're working alla prima, but if you're working sort of building it up over time, with acrylic though, you can put thin washes over very thick layers, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's much more experimental, maybe.
yeah, it appears that way.
But I think we tend to, and like with gouache, I mean, I use gouache very much like I would oil, in that sense. And I would probably use acrylic very much like I use oil and gouache.
I'm going for you to use acrylic. That will be so interesting to see. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah,
I actually bought some casein not that long ago and tried once and didn't really get on with it. But again, I need to give it a bit more time. It's interesting.
I wanted to ask Julia, do you exhibit, because you mentioned galleries at the start of this in your introduction, I think. So what galleries do you exhibit in?
It's a very it's a local gallery, and it's very democratic, so everyone can go and show the piece. And I joined it many years ago. I think it's more than 5, and I'm still there, and I'm just bringing a piece, and most of the time I sell it or sell several pieces, so it's working absolutely fine to me. I don't have deadlines. I also I decided to do that. I'm going to do like 1 month of me doing my personal exhibit in that gallery. So that will be body of work, like 15 paintings shown, and one time.
Fantastic.
So
What's it called? What's the name of the gallery?
it's a Society of Bluffton Artists Soba Gallery in Bluffton, South Carolina.
Oh, fantastic. And then do you have a website? Where should people go to support your work and see you from our audience? Where should they go and see your work online?
I do have a website. It's juliaartist.com. Very easy name without anything in between, juliaartist.com. And I also usually like get with people on a social media. It's my Instagram, so that what they like find me and usually follow my work from Instagram. And I'm usually better like to respond on messages from there first, and then maybe I will go to my website and see if somebody asking anything. So yeah, it happens too.
Excellent.
And
Well,
to follow your still life Instagram as well.
oh yeah.
So there's your more landscape Instagram and your still life Instagram as well.
Yeah, that's like several like different accounts. I don't know like how it go if I have, because it's like social media, they like taking so much time to support. I mean, I'm trying to be polite and thank everyone who left the comment or have questions. I'm not like usually upload and go away. No, I'm usually interacting, and it takes quite like a time each day from me to support that and to support other artists I like. And
yeah, it's a full-time job. But
not sure about like if I can handle multiple accounts.
well, I'll put links in the description of this video for your social media accounts and for the gallery, so that anyone watching or listening will be able to go and support your work and see your work there. But just wanted to thank you for being on the podcast. You've been
Thank you so much. It was so much fun to talk to you. Yeah.
Lovely.
You too. Thank you so much for coming on, and it's lovely to hear all about your different mediums and how you work as well. And it's great to hear, because we see the images online and try to think how they're created or see. So it's really interesting to hear. Good. you, Julia.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking art. Just give me time.
Good.